Pendant des mois, je me suis battu avec les médias danois, en particulier Podimo, TV2 et DRTV. Mais ce soir, je vous annonce que la femme pour laquelle je faisais ça va enfin s'exprimer et ça va être dans le prochain épisode exceptionnel de mon podcast. On a dit qu'elle mentait, qu'elle était instable, qu'elle avait tout inventé. Pendant des mois, elle s'est tue. Pendant ce temps, le monde, en particulier les Danois, croyaient leur sordide histoire. Tout est documenté. Chaque mensonge, chaque message et surtout, chaque menace. A letter in an apartment in the building?
Yes, in the building you live in.
What is the address you have?
The address is Lahoui, 27B, the first floor to the left.
I don't live there.
Oh, you don't live there?
No.
Alright, okay. Fair enough.
C'est donc ce vendredi, dans une première partie, que Julie va s'exprimer. Elle a été diffamée. Elle va donc utiliser son droit de réponse dans le podcast Hacker son futur. Ce podcast est totalement en anglais. C'est pour ça que je fais cette vidéo en avance, que je fais ce teaser et que cette vidéo même commence par ce teaser. Donc, si vous ne comprenez pas l'anglais, allez sur YouTube pour ceux qui sont en audio. Comme ça, vous aurez la traduction en français et pourrez comprendre. Quand un ex aussi violent, physiquement et moralement, s'en prend à sa vie. Parce que nous allons nous appuyer sur la science et uniquement sur la science. Et ensuite, vous aurez le témoignage de Julie. Bonne écoute à vous. Hi everyone, this is a special podcast in 3 episodes and it's a right to answer about someone you're going to discover really soon. This first episode is when a podcast chooses a villain before the facts. You don't know her yet, but by the time this is over, you will wonder how her story isn't already headline news because it has everything. Violence behind closed doors, a child in the middle, and Podimo, a paid podcast platform built on personal stories and click-driven content. Publish a one-sided series about her. No fact-checking, no right to reply, just her ex-partner's vision packaged as truth. And the result? It damaged her safety, her family, her work, and her name. Then came the twist. In an interview, the journalist behind the Danish podcast, Mel den forkerte, excuse my Danish, child with the wrong person in English. Kristoffer Eriksen admitted he should have included the woman's facts. He called it a mistake not to hear both sides. That completely contradicts Podimo claim that everything was fact-checked and correct. And we have the letter from Podimo to prove it, kept by my lawyer. And when the woman's husband posted evidence, Kristoffer didn't correct anything. He published another episode to discredit her further. Then came the insult. After helping create the damage, Podimo invited her to tell her side. This from a platform drawing in around $500 million in debt, kicked off Spotify for publishing stories with false claim and no documentation. Still chasing click of the people they harm. Podimo claimed that the woman's husband was the one who made the public aware of who the woman in the story was. So they claim it's me. That's not correct. It was people on Reddit who identified her and started sharing it. Afterwards, they began harassing the woman and her husband, me, from accounts that were later traced to the same city and the same individuals who, coincidentally, also knew Yuli's ex. And the funny part is, even if it was me, the first person, I was absolutely not followed, as I am followed now by many people and less again by Danish people. And the part I want to add here is the only people they watched it and I screenshot it was Kristoffer Eriksen and was people around him at the moment I claimed about that story. And viciously, it was on Reddit, screenshot everything I was saying. And I have the numbers. Only 200 persons saw it that day. Almost no Danish persons, except people connected to this podcast. And you can sue me because I have the proof. If you say it's wrong, Instagram cannot lie. When he finally reacted, he posted stories without naming anyone. And realistically, not many Danes even knew who he was. Me against me. Yet before he mentioned anything publicly, Danish people were already watching his stories. Podimo employees, singers, even government ministers. So how did they know who he was if the story was supposed to be anonymous? And again, we have screenshots about all those people. Names, famous people in Denmark. Like how, why they will watch a story from someone who is no one in Denmark, me. How they connect it to some people famous in Denmark. If it's not Podimo themselves, they made it publicly on Reddit to have a lot of view and clickbait. There is something experts call narcissist immunity. It means narcissists protect themselves by never taking blame. They twist things, lie to themselves, and believe their own version of reality. That makes them immune. They feel no guilt, no shame, and no responsibility for what they do. And when someone like that tells their story first, the truth becomes their weapon. But here was Podimo never told you. The woman is not unstable. She is trained, university-educated pedagogue who spent years working with children in crisis, vulnerable families, and women exposed to violence. Worked with homeless people and with Red Cross. This all is documented and with proof. Travel to war zone to help get women and kids to shelter. To even do that work, you're constantly evaluated, supervised, and trusted with others people's life. If you're unstable, you don't get hired and you don't stay. So when they claim Yuli is unstable, this is a proof by law and by the people they hired her for years that is totally fake. And Podimo never tried to contact them, never tried to have the proof that is truth or not what Jesper was saying. At the same time, she built a career as a DJ, stylist, and creative consultant. Worked for X Factor for more than 4 years as costume, did commercial all over the world and worked with big brands. Her life wasn't chaos. It was responsibility, structured chaos, as independent and survival work. The narrative only changed after she had a child with the wrong person. She had the child with the wrong person, not him. And that's why we're here. Not for rumors, not for clickbait. I don't need that. I'm already in top 100 in the podcast in France, so I totally don't need that. And I do it in English to show you how I don't even need the light. Because most of the French people, they won't understand what we are talking about here. But for what was left out, backed by documents, witness, and facts. We are only on facts here. We're going to start this with an interview from Bushra Hanif, Dr. Bushra Hanif. It's important to understand it's a doctor. She has a PhD in violence against women, and she only works with facts, evidence, and documented behavioral research. We asked her to help us understand what really happens inside the body and the brain when someone lives through long-term abuse and manipulation. So we're going to pass to a call with her. You're going to follow what she has to say about the situation. And then you will continue with a special interview that you are all awaited. Gossip, non-gossip, liars, not liars, haters or not. You're gonna listen this. See you in a minute. We are tonight with Dr. Hanif. Hi, Dr. Hanif. How are you?
Hello, Frank. I am very good, thank you. And how are you?
I'm good. I'm good. Thank you. I have a few questions to ask you, if you allow me. The first one is, Dr. Hanif, when a woman has lived in an extremely violent and manipulative relationship, is it normal that her body freezes during the violence, that she doesn't react or fight back in that moment?
So, the shortest answer to that question is yes, absolutely. So, these reactions are very typical and they are very understandable as well. Let's not forget about that. Especially when women have been in long-term relationships with violence. So the thing is that when someone lives under extreme pressure and under constant threat and in an atmosphere filled with coercion, manipulation, psychological violence, and violence overall, the body and mind seem to adapt into what I will call a survival mode, which is extremely important when you are exposed to violence. So, what might look like freezing or confusion, and let's just have in mind these terms freezing, confusion, even memory loss, are terms used by institutions. Where I come from and the method I'm using, we will call these reactions as responses or resistance. But these terms of confusion, freezing, memory loss, being passive is often a very protective and very intelligent response to danger and the danger you are actually trying to protect yourself from. So what I just mentioned before, the method I have been working along for many years is called response-based practice. And looking from that point of view, we who are working with this method see and view these reactions not as signs of weakness, being passive, doing nothing about the violence. We see them as contextual responses to the violence, to the experienced violence. So every action, even silence, even compliance, hesitation, detachment, de-escalation will be understood as forms of resistance shaped by the woman and the need to stay safe, protect yourself, your kids, protect others in your network, and minimize the harm as much as you can. And what I have been shown, what I found out through my research on violence against women, is that I've shown that when women appear confused or detached, again, these are institutional terms, they are often managing very complex emotional and physical and psychological risks. And these responses must be understood as or in relation to the violence that has been experienced rather than an isolated psychological symptom that, oh, you didn't do enough or you should just have left.
So, Dr. Anif, as an outsider, it can look like she's calm or accepting what's happening, but in reality, her body might just be shutting down as a survival response, right?
Actually, what happens is that in these long term, unfortunately, some relationships that have violence in them are very long term relationships. And in these long term relationships, there's a long term psychological abuse as well. And this abuse can have a very deep effect on the body and the brain and your mind, and just to be like a normal human being. So like these chronic exposure to fear, humiliation, physical violence, material violence, economical violence, and control, manipulation, coercion, that activates the body's stress symptoms. And like the stress system is so much extended for a long period of time. So over time, this can also differentiate or alter your nervous system. Obviously, and that actually also leads to a very very large amount of exhaustion and also fatigue, hyper vigilance, and also like difficulties overcoming concentration, overcoming daily things you need to do.
Okay.
And that also has like a very deep effect, even though when you leave the abuser.
If you can elaborate about what you mean about the last sentence, like when you leave the abuser, the effect on him, and is it correct that the time a woman leave the abuser, it becomes very dangerous, and why?
Oh, yes. So, unfortunately, the violence does not stop when you leave the abuser or the perpetrator. There is a very deep, long term aftermath. You need to compromise yourself. You need to create strategies and tactics because surely you have left the physical abuse, but the psychological abuse and the digital abuse and the stalking may appear also. So with perpetrators, there's this sign of not having control, and they want to reclaim the control over their partner. So in my research, I also identified different forms of responses to what happens when a woman leaves the abuser. There's a lot of symptoms, as I just mentioned before. Forgetting is one of them. Even though when you try to go to the police or meet other representatives of the system and they want you to repeat or just like tell about what actually happened, you just seem to forget, and that will be, oh, you are just not emotionally available. How come? Like, if you want to file a report, why do we see lack of emotional concentration? So this is what the system will call emotional withdrawal, right? But actually, what the woman is doing is that she's trying to preserve her dignity. She's trying to reclaim control over her own life. She's trying to be safe. She's trying to create a safe environment. And she's trying to stay out of unsafe and uncertain situations. But the system has not got the grasp of the aftermath. They just think if you have left, and nothing then will happen. But there's a lot of happening after that as well, which will, of some systemic workers, professional, seem like you are just weak.
I get it. Can those traumatic experiences also cause memory gasps? For example, not remembering parts of the abuse and recalling events later in fragments?
Yes, absolutely. This is a very important, but it's also a very complex question because, so let's just say that when someone doesn't react, from my point of view, everyone reacts, but from a systemic point of view, when no one reacts during an assault, this is also a big part of creating strategies that are embodied like forms of resistance, right? So the body may enter or go into this phase of a protective state, which can maybe later make it even difficult to recall what happened in detail. So what may be looking like, oh, she forgot, or why did you forget what happened? Like, you embody that, you experienced violence on your body. How can you not recall it? But that is actually the body's way of creating a temporary distance from something which was so overwhelming for your body and your mind. So again, this is the way you and your mind and your body are protecting yourself. This is not being weak, or this is not being passive. You are trying to protect yourself and your children.
Okay. Why do abusers, especially men, so often label their partners as mentally ill or unstable after the relationship ends? Is this linked to of control, projection, or the social BS that makes it easier to discredit women by questioning their mental health, rather than acknowledging the violence itself?
Okay, so I'll try to take it in parts.
Okay.
So unfortunately, we have a society, and we are living in a society which is constructed by higher powers. So unfortunately, these social narratives about gender violence, gender overall, and especially violence against women still tend to frame women's responses through a psychological or moral lens. Rather than actually seeing them as real human beings doing every day they can to survive the violence they are experiencing. And like, the system is not very good. Not even like, I'm just talking about the system, but also the perpetrators or the abusers are not even framed to put these things into a context. So when a woman seems confused, quiet, or contradictory in her account or in her way of being. Maybe let's just say if she looks good and healthy, and she actually is doing everything she can to look perfect and normal on the outside, this will also be taken into a very stigmatic account.
Okay.
Oh, you don't look as someone who has been experiencing violence because you look very beautiful. Your hair is nice, your nails are done, your jewelry is on, you wear nice clothes. So these are the things like I'm talking about when I'm talking about the context. So these women who are actually doing everything they can to appear normal, they will always or very often be described as unstable or unreliable instead of actually being understood as someone navigating in a landscape full of trauma, coercion, manipulation, and violence. And like the stigmatic part is so overwhelming. And as a researcher, I have been stigmatizing myself a lot until I actually try to dig into these narratives, like what happens when you are in these coercive relationships. And again, what I found out was like from a response-based perspective, these interpretations are very like deeply problematic. So they erase the context of violence and the person's resistance to it, and instead we are focusing on the wrong things. You look healthy, you look good, you have a job, you are secured enough. And so my research shows that when we reframe these reactions as active relational responses rather than symptoms of something like socially constructed, we will definitely open up new ways of seeing dignity, agency, and strength in the midst of the violence as well. So just a last comment is that it's very important and it's very essential that especially professionals who are here to help women exposed to violence and subjected to violence, we are here to save them from crisis. We are here to learn how to read women's responses as meaningful and purposeful instead of stereotyping, instead of stigmatizing, categorizing, and reducing women to nothing. And we should see that as a sign of strength and agency rather than a sign of weakness or she's just bitter, she wants vengeance. Oh, she can't handle that her ex-husband is living his life. He got married, so she just wants revenge. Like, these are the types of stigmatizing approaches we should not talk into. And when we do so, we shift the focus from, oh, what's wrong with her, to, hey, what has been done to her? And how has she actually survived all this? So let's try to recall every experience in a cooperation between me as a professional and her as the one experiencing the violence.
So you just watched the interview with Dr. Bushra Hanif. We moved on to the claims, the things that were said about the woman in the story. You just heard what traumas look like, how the body freezes, how memory can fragment, and how long-term manipulation changes behavior. Keep that in mind, and as you listen to what was later said about her, because once you understand the science, the story sounds very, very, very different. So let's go on the claim. You won't see her during the interview because she wants to stay anonymous for now, and we respect people that want to stay anonymous. Claim 1, she's mentally unstable. That's what everyone is saying. She is unstable and mental ill. So Yuli, people have said you are mentally unstable and that nothing you can say can be trusted. What do you respond to that?
Yes, there was a narrative built around me that I was mentally unwell. And sometimes I do understand why some people believed it. I was in a very toxic, manipulative relationship. And trauma reactions don't always look like calm from the outside. I also don't fit the stereotype of the innocent Danish white woman because I'm not white. I am a DJ and I work in a creative environment. And I do not present the way people expect a Danish mother to be or to look. And that made it way easier for people to label me like that. And I say this very, very clearly. I fully acknowledge that my behavior sometimes did not reflect or react to the way I normally would behave because I was under like extreme pressure and constantly in survival mode. And I was reacting to trauma and not thinking clearly. I worked with all that in therapy for years and I do not hide from it. But reacting to harm is not the same as being mentally ill. I do have a bachelor degrees, like told, and I have worked with violence for years and vulnerable children and families. And I also produced the idea of a documentary on TV during lockdown when I worked at a crisis center. So the unstable label they put on me is not on facts. It's an excuse to harm me.
She has formal education and documented a material and crisis work. The label was driven by narrative and BS, not evidence. And we know, Podimo, you have no evidence about any mental ill because we made an investigation. There is nothing. Prove me I'm wrong. Again, I say that in 5 episodes. You never did it. Claim 2, she was involved with drugs. So the public claim that you were involved, Yuli, with drugs. Some people claim you were involved with drugs and that this was part of the problem. What's your response?
This is a harsh accusation. It did not appear out of nowhere. My ex helped create it. At the time, he told me his former assistant was involved in selling drugs and that she hated me. He showed me a lot of messages and said they were from her. And later she appeared in the podcast we speak about, saying that I was crazy and stalking her. I did not spoke to her directly back then because all info came from him. And I believed it because I was scared. I got real death threats. I got beaten in the streets more than once. And back then I did not understand the control he had, on my life, my phone, my accounts. He used mirroring apps, where you can, and physically took my phone more than once. I have emails, tons of them, where I asked them to be returned. Of course, they were refused. And at the crisis center, we learned how that mirroring app works. That means that you can basically be on someone else's phone, you can log in, you can read, delete, and send messages as if you were yourself. Which also brought to the accusations about me messaging his colleagues from what he called a burner phone that you use for drugs. Yes, I did have one, but because the police recommended it to me after repeated attack. And my access to the crisis center had been planned for months, and that phone was part of the plan, so he couldn't trace me. And at that time, I believe it was safest if my former assistant kept that phone.
And that's where it ended up. I didn't get it back. Later, that detail will come important because he used the existence of that phone to build a narrative about me that had nothing to do with reality. My ex also claimed that a so-called mutual friend have told him about this illegal burner phone that I should have bought with someone else. That is not true. The person he claimed to be his witness has now given a statement to me and the police saying that he never was in contact with my ex, and he spoke to an artist once about it, but he never said what they later claimed, and he never agreed to testify against it, and he's not friend with my ex. They twisted his name again to their story to make it sound like they had backup, that I had a burner phone and I sold that. So in court, again, my ex claimed that I had the burner phone and I had sent threats from it to him and his co-workers. And I also had bought drugs on it. The police investigated and I was acquitted. There was never found no messages from me, no evidence, nothing linking me to those claims. Nothing, I repeat, nothing, and it's on court paper from the day. And if it was true, I do understand why people think I'm off, but no one ever had a decency to confront me with it, or to talk with me about it, and that shows the level of the toxic behavior from other humans, that they just believe a rumor. It was a little bit confusing, I get that, but it come from a burner phone that he claimed. Shortly said that I sold drugs from. And I had a lawyer in my first court case, and he recognized the pattern, and he's seen it before. He's seen threats, messages sent from an abuser's side and blame on the woman to make her look unstable. And that is exactly what happened. I gave my phones, everything to the police, and they searched it. And strangely enough, they never checked his emails or his access logs, even though we told them repeatedly that there was a lot of evidence there. So the drug accusation escalated after I reported his drug use to a police officer. The same police officer that helped me and guided me how to leave him. Again, I was investigated and officially acquitted. The case is closed because there was no evidence. His evidence was the same material he used in the family court, the printout, the screenshots he made himself. So the claim came from drugs found in his car, not my car. His ODs was on his body, not mine. Ambulance, doctors, there's evidence of all that. Also from what you call the rehab centers. We have text messages from them. So during that period, the stress and violence led to a bleeding in my brain that caused damage, permanent damage, memory issue, headaches, fatigue. And some people even claim I invented that. Just remember that for later. I have scans from all doctors, the best hospital in Europe. But the rumors about me faking it and selling drugs, they survived after the case didn't survive because it was closed. So the rumors are still there about drugs.
She was acquitted. There is no conviction. There is a medical documentation of a brain hemorrhage and permanent injury by one of the best hospitals in the whole Europe. She said some people, I want to precise himself, said she faked it. Excuse me, in which world you can, or she's billionaire and we don't know, in which world you can fake a doctor paper? And if you If you want the truth, why you don't ask about it? Why, as a media, you don't ask about that evidence? We talk about permanent injury. That's severe. That's really bad. Meanwhile, his overdose, substance abuse, eating disorder, gastric bypass, and treatment contact are documented. Not once Podimo wants to talk about it. It is documented. Denmark is not like a small country lost, in Africa, and I come from Africa. It's not, it's a developed country. So it's easy to find the proof that he used drugs, he abused drugs, he did OD, and that was rehab center. So he got drug problem. How you connect drug to his ex-wife when it's him that is an addict to that? The claim against her was not supported by evidence, yet Podimo and TV2 still portrayed it as though she placed or sold drugs, threatened people, or harassed them. And TV2, that's cool, you stopped really quick. At least you guys stopped really quick. Maybe there is some people with brain there that's different than Podimo, but just a point. Claim 3. She provoked the violence, it was mutual. That's what people understand after Podimo made their podcast, which is insane. If the identity of those people are out, look at his body and look at her body. Just, if you have a brain, connect it, how one can hurt the other one. But because I talk like that, like savage people, because you can only be savage to them, to think that a woman and a man, they have the same strength and is mutual and you can provoke. Masculinity still exists in 2025, I guess. Another public claim is that the violence between you and him was mutual, Yuli, or that you provoked it. What is the reality?
The idea that violence is mutual or I provoked it is not accurate. All the assaults against me are documented. We do not need to go to graphic details here. The records exist. The serious brain injury did not happen while I was with him. It came after I left. But it was the direct results of violence and harassment that continued. He did not always act alone. He could involve other people. I was attacked more than once. And the danger was even considered real enough that I was given the emergency alarm where you push the button and the police come directly because they can see your, geolocation and where you are. And you cannot have that unless your risks, what you call risk factors, are documented. And also, you had to chase away people who came to intimidate me. There were witnesses in a lot of the attacks, and we reported everything. In some cases, we got half-ass answers, and some they investigated but had to close. Because there was no face behind the assaults. It was masked people. And since 2020, I had 4 severe concussions. One concussion can take years to heal. Just want to state the fact of that. None of them were given time to heal because I was trying to survive, the legal, financial, and physically. I was trying to survive that on my own, and I also had 2 kids. Only one of them with him. And I also had to pay my lawyers, so I did not have time to heal. Our social worker one of my first ones, she assessed that I could not return to Copenhagen because she considered it too dangerous. So in the process, I lost my job, my home, my family, my network, everything. When you live with, like, for years with chronic abuse, like I said before, your reactions don't look calm or rational from outsiders. Like I said, I can look back and admit that some of my behavior don't reflect who I normally am. I was pushed to the limits. And again, I worked with it in therapy, because surviving what I did, it leaves mark on your body. But reacting to violence is not the same as provoking it. There was no mutual fight. I was just surviving what was done to me, in theory and facts.
Thank you, Yuli. The important thing is you said she got 2 kids and one of them is not his. If she's the bad one, if she's the bad mother, but we're gonna come on it maybe on the next episodes. But if she's the bad one, why, as a serious journalist, Kristoffer Eriksen never contacted the other father? Why he never contacted me? Because apparently I am the one who started, who knows who, whatever. Why, when I accused him of fake allegation, he never confronted me. He never asked me where I have the proof. He never talked to me. You know, liars, the thing is, when they know they lie, they don't ask one saying the truth. You know that. Even a kid, he escaped the truth. He always go to the other liar so they can lie together. Medical documentation confirms injuries. And an emergency police alarm is only issued in high-risk cases. High-risk cases. And this documentation exists. The police alarm exists. It is all documented. Why Podimo never checked it? A social worker's assessment found it was unsafe for her to return to her own municipality. That is insane. She is the bad one, but your system, your Danish system, told her, ordered her to not come back home. From who? From who? That's the question you have to ask yourself. From who? She cannot come back home. Who is the danger? Podimo never asked that question either. I said Podimo because they assume they did a good work. There is no documentation showing her as the aggressor. Not one, not even one police detail. If you are in danger, why you don't call the police? If someone is a danger to you, why you never contacted the police once? The only one time you had the police, it was about the drug. What a funny coincidence for someone who's a drug abuser. Only as the one who was armed. That's the thing is here. Like, if you make investigation correct, you will see she called the police several times. She been in the hospital several times in Denmark. Social worker, everything exists. So I started to question myself. Was it an interview or a major plan to clean his name? That guy. But we're gonna come back on this because I have more popcorn about it. But not this episode. Stay here. We have a 4th claim. Stay here. People say, Yuli, you are a dangerous or unfit parent. One of the most damaging claims made publicly was that you were unsafe or unfit as a parent. What is your side of the story behind that?
Like I said before, there were never no interventions before this with any of my kids. There were never any concerns. There was from the school too, which were the youngest, have said in school that her dad drove drunk. It is also documented. We were at a meeting that she have told them that. There was another one where she have told that her mom is going to die. He got furious and wrote a message to the whole class saying that I was sick, blah, 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 and made me look like a psycho, basically. So that is how he portrayed it every time there was those two claims from the school the year before we left to crisis center. So it did not come out of nowhere. That was before. I have more than 5 independent psychological and medical assessments since 2020. They say I have complex PTSD from abuse. I am not mentally ill. I am not dangerous. I am not violent, nor am I an unfit parent. The allegations go on that I paid people to say that. You cannot pay a psychologist. It is ridiculous. The only reason the custody changed, which is not something I'm proud of, but it is the truth, is that me and my family were worn down. Sorry.
Okay, take your time.
No, because for years we've been exhausted, we've been manipulated, we've been pressures. Then there is the parent case, then there is a drug case, which I was acquitted. Then the system pushed against me. The reason I did not win the last court case was because I refused to hand over my kid to a placement. That was twisted into that I would not cooperate. At the final stage, we had a psychologist, a white older woman, that said I could not mentalize my kid's need. One of the comments made about me was that I looked too well. I was too skinny. I was too well groomed. I did not look like a victim. Can someone tell me how a victim looked like? Because apparently I didn't look like one, because I was not on social help. I worked 60 hours a week. But still, I was not a victim. I was the aggressor. At one time during our session, I had 40 in fever. It was during the corona season. I asked to stop and she said, "Oh, you look really sick. You're not able to talk today." I said, "We can do it." And she said, "No, we reschedule." She did not reschedule and she did not take away the part where I was sick. She used it against me. In her conclusion, I was indirectly told again and again that I did not have the image of a victim. I looked too good in court. I was too well dressed. At that time, I was working 20-hour shifts often just to keep my house, and to have a life, a normal life, which I not had. Meanwhile, all the documented thing that was there, the overdose, admitting to eating disorder, the visible alcohol and drug use, were never treated as risk factors. His condition was never questioned. I was being judged for being too stable. That is sick. And the psychologist that made that decision, they used a special theory that you can use doing parenting assessment. It's an outdated model, and it's been recently discredited in a Greenlandic case where a mother lost her child and the state in Denmark had to apologize. As a trained pedagogue, I already knew this test because a lot of the people I work with use it, and I used it also, and I tell it. I say it's outdated. I do not believe in the way it's done. I would prefer we use this test that is also highly recommended by people. They refused that. And they used the theory I said I did not believe in. That is a pattern of bias and blind spots. And at the same time, a former friend has also witnessed in the court case and in a podcast, she harassed my doctor. She harassed my kids' school and my family by contacting them and say I was schizophrenic and did not take my medicine. You know it's illegal to testify in court on a lie. And she repeatedly also said in the podcast, even the claims were proven false. My doctor said he was being harassed. My parents, my friends that were witnesses to it, everyone came with the witness statement, even the old school. And she's still allowed to use it because she's white. We reported it to the police now, and we also included it harassment and false claims to the state. So now we will see what's gonna happen. I do not trust the system. And it also continued the bias in the system that a social worker said, oh, your ex claimed that your new husband is criminal and he's dangerous in the music industry. And it's based on what a man said, not by facts, because no one ever asked us, but because you're black. Of course you must be criminal. And by law, it is illegal to put that in our official report. So we filed a complaint, and because it's defamation. So we're still waiting on that too. So yes. And again, after the podcast, it was claimed by my ex in a letter from his lawyer, this is ridiculous, that my husband tried to kill him and his wife, and he threatened it. It literally never happened, and we have the letter to prove it. And he's not even in Denmark, so why should he have done it? I see a system of the former threats sent out here. And he also claimed all of a sudden that my husband sent a package to the youngest kid. Again, he did not. And the whole package thing come from when I reported him for sending a package, which is also mentioned in the podcast, with threats around 22. He claimed I put them inside. Fact check here. The police later have apologized that they did not contact my witness, who filmed everything from the moment the package arrived to the moment it was opened. I knew that he would go so far, so I made sure to prove every little step. But because he said it to the police, they filed a report against me. I showed the evidence and I complained twice. Twice I have to call them and complain and go directly to them. But then it was too late. He already used that against me in court. Even though I proved again I was not the aggressor. The lengths that man will go to win is so scary, because I fear for my life as long as he's free. So I did not lose custody because I was unsafe or because I was ill. I lost because the system we have is tired and is racist and biased. And the harassment stories shapes, a narrative more than evidence do. So, no, I am not mental ill.
Thank you, Yuli. Thank you. As you can hear, was not from my word. Yuli said it too. I was accused to be a criminal. In the French system, we have, a central system where all the condemnation exists and never been even charged. Even charged. I don't even say maybe been in jail. No, not even charged for anything since I was born, and I'm 39. While Jesper is a really good client for the justice, it's easy to find. But no one asked me a proof. I don't have any label. Maybe I will have a label one day, because you gave me opportunity. Maybe it's a manifestation for me. I'm in the manifestation world, so maybe it's a manifestation for me to have a label and be a multimillionaire. Who knows? But I never had a label. And working in the movies industry with criminal, what are we talking about? Because I'm black. Now, people who watch that video tell me or listen to me on podcast, tell me, because I'm black, I'm a criminal. I told you in the video, remember that Jesper had a Nazi group years ago. The same narrative continued. It was not fake. For Nazi, black people are criminal by birth. More than 5 independent doctors and psychologists since 2020 have confirmed PTSD from abuse, not instability, not danger, not unfitness. Her oldest child, and I say it again, she got an older child with another father who is not Jesper, that no one asked if she's fit to be a mother. Her other child was never considered as risk by any authority. How the fuck you separate two kids if one, the mother is fit to have one? How she's not fit to have the other one? How in your system you think this is normal? What? She double herself. There is one that is with a youngest daughter and one Yuli that is with the other's daughter. Tell me, explain me how you can be fit for one kid but not for the other kid. This is insane. This is insane. Professionals documented safety and progress in our home for both kids. The custody outcome followed exhaustion, harassment, use of discredited assessment, false testimony, third-party interference, and unchallenged racism claim. Unchallenged racism claim. Because as a lot of people know, Denmark got a systemic racism at the highest level in the world. So to end that first episode, they called her unstable. They said she was on drugs. They claimed the violence was mutual. And they painted her as an unfit mother. But here's what Podimo never said out loud. Every single one of those claims has already been disproven. That guy Jesper used the same lies everywhere, like an old man who loses his mind to say the same thing everywhere, expecting people to believe him. It's like an old disc from the 70s that your parents listen again and again every day. He is like that. In medical records, legal documents, and professional assessments, they publish his version without evidence, without a reply, and without fact-checking. I'm going to go here about the thing. They recorded their podcast before she could answer. That means they finished it. They just wanted to have a comment. If you do a partial work, then you go on the both sides first and then you publish it. Again, it is a PR. It is a marketing. This is not journalism. This is marketing. You know, it's like when a brand made something wrong and they pay a media to help them to clean their image. You have that. You have some boss from company, they come and they have a fake interview when they come. You have that every day. You don't believe them, right? How you believe Jesper? How you do that? So they publish his version without evidence, without reply, and without fact-checking. When they finally contacted her, the podcast was already finished while she was recovering from a brain bleed. Doctor had warned her to avoid stress to prevent further damage. And that doctor is easy to find. Easy. Denmark is only 6 million people. It's tiny. You could say like in the US it's hard. No, it's Denmark. Come on. It's Paris and the area around. That's the same population. It's even more people in Paris. She lives today with 20% lasting brain damage, while Podimo still claims everything was fact-checked and correct. What a joke. Even their own journalist has since admitted he should have heard her, apparently contradicting Podimo's public defense of themselves. And it was on South Venue. And South Venue is owned by Jesper Franck. It's easy to find. That's funny that those people say they never met each other before and they been introduced by friend and mysteriously decided to make a podcast. What a beautiful coincidence. It's like made by God. God decided to make that podcast. And one none of the first accusation could be proven. Not instability, not drugs, not mutual violence, not unfitness as a parent, and narratives simply change. If you can break a woman with lies about sanity, motherhood, or past, you go after her motives. Suddenly she was bitter, vengeful, attention seeker, trying to destroy his career, of course. What a career. That's where episode 2 begins. The next set of claims were not about what she did, but about what she dared to speak at all. At this time, every answer comes with evidence. Podimo left out. I'm going to say something to add in conclusion. There was a lot of people, Danish people, and even maybe Jesper himself, I'm pretty sure, they contacted me and say, you don't know because you were not there. You have only her version. 5 years with the person, I won't say if she's unstable or not. 5 years. And I won't see it. The guy will say you're going to learn it hard. Still 5 years. Never had that. Never seen the violence. I can testify. Never seen the violence. Never seen everything he's saying. And more than that, I chase people he sent after her. What a good man would send people to beat a woman. You know how it happened? I'm going to give you that. That's the story, real quick. I decided one winter to not publish that I was in Denmark because I realized when I publish and I am in Denmark, there is no one coming. Like they want to make a look like a fool in front of me. So I was like, let's challenge them. I publish anything. I publish only stories in Paris. Then one night we came back from the supermarket. That was 2 guys hiding in the trash cabin. They came out. They were about to attack her. And I left the bags on the floor. This is facts. I'm not inventing anything. And I said that to the police. 2 episodes I said. I'm going to tell you the second episode after. I turned to them and they smile. You are 2 guys. Why you don't come to beat me? I'm a man. Fight with a man. This is the type of people you're protecting. This is your type of hero. I said that to the police. I say I can testify in front of a court with no problem. No one took my complaint. Second episode. Again, I decided to not publish that I was in Denmark. 3 guys came in the tunnel on the small city that she was living just around. And apparently they attacked her not far from there before. Again, those 3 guys, they saw me, they were surprised to see me. And they laughed, they left. 2 episodes. 2 times I say to the police, your Danish police, this is unacceptable. How the fuck there is no complaint taken? If the Danish police look at this, I'm still free to come and testify about it. The French police already get that, don't worry. because there is something going on. End of the first episode. We see you at the second episode with more fact-checking and Yuli answer. See you.